Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Data Unchained. I'm Molly Presley, the host of this show. So what is Data Unchained all about? The paradigm for data access has changed. If you think about today's decentralized world where we're trying to get data to remote workers, we have distributed applications across the edge, the cloud, and data centers, and artificial intelligence engines are trying to take advantage of that data. All of this has created a massive challenge for IT teams as well as data users. Data Unchained digs into the challenges and the solutions to make data an asset as a global resource. Today's guest is Steve Lowe. I had the pleasure of meeting Steve in person on a trip out to Europe last week. He's a co-founder and sales director of Titan Data Solutions located out in the UK. Steve, thank you so much for joining.
Good to see you again, Molly.
Good to see you too. Seems like literally almost just yesterday that we got to meet together over there in Canary Wharf. Tell us just a little bit about yourself. We'll talk about Titan in a minute, but maybe a little bit more about Steve before we jump into all the details.
So yeah, as you said, co-founder of Titan. I wear many hats. On a personal level, I'm a big golfer and big sports fan as well. We had the NFL in London just yesterday, so I was at the Giants-Packers game, which was a lot of fun. Also a big football fan as well. So Manchester United is the team I support. And interestingly, I was born in Scotland, so Scotland is my national team, which causes quite a little bit of banter in the office.
I would bet. That tends to be quite the rivalry. So I find Steve when I'm out in especially Northern Europe, if I mistake the Scottish versus British accent, that causes quite some trouble too. Do you run into that problem? Will I offend you when I don't know where you're from?
No, definitely not. My accent's from Essex, so that would confuse even a local.
So tell us a little bit about Titan Data Solutions.
So Titan were created almost 4 years ago now, and we've worked in the group of guys we set the business up with. We've all worked in technology for a number of years, and we really felt that the channel, as we refer to it over here, was missing a specialist distributor. And our background and heritage was always from data storage. So we've all come at it from different angles, but ultimately we felt like there was a gap in the channel in the UK to bring a data storage distributor. There's been a lot of consolidation in the channel over the years, and I think I think distribution and the role of distribution may need to be redefined. That's certainly what we feel, and the value of what distribution is. It used to be probably a big warehouse and a route to market for many vendors, but really our world is talking and enabling partners across the UK talk to their end users. We understand the challenges of what a typical reseller account manager has to face on a daily basis, and also very aware of the fact that you can't be a master of all topics as well. So we set Titan up to really bring that layer of specialism, predominantly in data storage. And we're 4 years in, having a lot of fun doing it, and we've grown really well as a business, and long may that continue.
So I do admit I've been to distribution houses, and usually I think big vendor cages and hardware kits sitting, stacked up, ready to pull from. Is that kind of what Titan is about? Or I know you work as a distribution model for software too. So tell me a little bit more about when you're helping plug that gap and helping with what resellers really need, what that really means.
I think that world still does exist, and you'd probably classify that as broadline distribution. And as a specialist, I think what you aim to bring is one, emerging technologies to market, and also the role of distribution, I feel, is to educate and bring that non-biased or unbiased perspective on technology to the industry. typically what we've seen from afar is, over the years, is a lot of people in the channel, a lot of a big drive towards tier one technologies and accreditation, certainly, and not necessarily learning or understanding the problems and complexities of the industry. And that we're very aware that every business has different priorities, and they can be generalist or specialist, and we kind of cover most areas of the channel from a reseller perspective. So we'll deal with the big global VARs. We do really well into public sector and utilize the frameworks of some of our partners very well, and we'll be brought in, just to add a bit of color, add a bit of technical specialism to a lot of those end user calls. I think if you're an account manager on a lot of these floors where you're a large corporate, you may be required to sell a multitude of products, and that becomes quite difficult. You may also have a backlog on your pre-sales team, and that pre-sales team could be funded by a vendor, so you're not necessarily getting the right solution all the time. So we fit really well into there. We also deal really well with boutique resellers. And these are the type of businesses who don't necessarily need our help from a technical perspective, but we do provide that resource center, not just for commercials, but also just bringing these innovative technologies to the market, and just being a safe pair of hands ultimately. And then we deal with a lot of hosting companies too. So we're quite diverse across our customer type, but we're really narrow and focused on our technologies and what we bring to the market.
One of the things I've found talking to resellers, all different types, different verticals, horizontal markets around the globe, is they're constantly trying to figure out which technologies to add to their portfolio. They become experts in certain technologies, but then they also want to be able to bring new technologies into their portfolio when it makes sense. How do you at Titan help resellers with assessing which new technologies are coming out, which ones you think makes sense to add to the portfolio when they maybe already have some of the foundation covered?
It's really about how well you know your customers, and our job is to serve up technologies, and if the time comes around from a technical perspective, then our job is to make sure people know where that technology fits, and it just adds another layer to their portfolio. If we can present a technology, it may not be a day-to-day vendor. A lot of our technologies are project based, so it's not necessarily something that businesses will add to their portfolio and sell on a day-to-day basis, but really our job is more of that consultative perspective. So we'll look to add different versions of technologies to the conversation, or at least so a reseller knows where to put it. I did go back and say, it's about knowing your customers, and I think from our perspective, what we look for in a technology really is we've got a really good view of the world sitting in distribution. So we do see multi-verticalized opportunities, but I think from a data storage perspective, or certainly data management, which is really important, is a lot of people are experiencing the same issues, and the complexities of having a multi-site environment and a global environment is it's a legacy issue. And so for us, we look to bring products to the market which solve a lot of the problems that are out there. Ultimately, that's our job.
Through COVID and the change in workforce, I think you're right. A lot of the problems, like you say, are legacy that organizations encounter today, that really, as the cloud came into the world, customers started to look at, how do I architect my data centers? How do I architect what goes to the cloud? Edge came about, and now all of a sudden you have devices everywhere. Is that generally what you're talking about, or are there other areas as well in this kind of global data environment?
That's exactly what we're seeing, and it's nothing new. Everyone knew this was going to happen, just because of the the hierarchy of the way storage has typically been designed, or our infrastructure has been designed. But that explosive growth is here, and typically around unstructured data. That's where people are finding issues. I think the cloud's been fantastic. However, that adds more data silos and more friction across data. As you said, you've got all these multiple site, multi-platform vendor lock-in strategies, and that causes a lot of complexities. Because the way people work still to this day is via copy. I think in the 1990s you had the file system was locked into the operating system, and then you had NetApp came to the market and changed it and put it on the network, and then Isilon took it a step further. I think what you're seeing is companies are still taking copies of data, and I heard a good comment recently where someone said that it's like taking a limb off a tree. Taking a copy is like taking a live limb off a tree, because from that moment it no longer evolves. The data is no longer live, and when companies are growing at a rate of probably 20% on average, and you're making all these copies across multiple sites. Ultimately that's where all of the issues that we typically see are existing, and it's a real problem. So yeah, we've got vendor lock-in and data silos, and I think that's what we're trying to address.
Great answer, and a bunch of really interesting comments, which tie back to the conversation you and I were having last week. That you said Titan is thinking about a shift from storage to data management as a company. I'm not sure I'm articulating that quite right, but can you expand a little bit on why you want to see that shift occur within kind of how you're known and what your expertise are?
Glad you picked up on that. So we actually we changed that. So we came to the market 4 years ago, and we were a data storage specialist distributor. That's how we would go to market. That's how we would talk. But ultimately, after doing this for a few years, and multiple years before Titan, we really felt like we were fueling the flame, really, and adding to the problem by not talking about the data management of an end user, by not addressing those problems. So yeah, we definitely changed the way we talk to our customers and also go to market. So we do see ourselves more as a data management business than data storage, because ultimately understanding or educating customers on how to, whether it's categorizing the metadata, whether it's addressing the data governance within a business, and helping educate across what's most important. And I think for us, where it used to be, how many terabytes do you require, and what are the IOPS? Now it's actually, how are you trying to monetize your data? What are you trying to achieve as a business? And data really is a corporate asset, and most businesses don't really think like that, or they give that problem to the IT manager. Where they don't have there should be a CIO within every, I'd say, medium to large business. Certainly, there should be a CIO, somebody responsible for monetizing the data, or at least the governance of that data, because it truly is the key to unlocking, transformative results within any business. If you can unlock the value of your data, then you're going to see the results in the bottom line. So our transformation, just being even in distribution, which the average person would say that's a warehouse full of stock. It's really not. It's it's educating even the end user as to the importance of the data, and trying to understand what they're trying to achieve, rather than the lowest common denominator, which is how many bays would you like and what capacity of drive. Actually trying to understand and educate our partners in the value of what you have, what type of data are you looking at, what are you trying to achieve as a business. That's really our goals. We may only achieve one of those things on a call, but like I said, the role of distribution has changed, and to add true value to your customer, is for us the most important thing. So that's what we try and do. We bring innovative technologies with different techniques to try and deliver the best outcome for the end user ultimately.
I think the idea of monetizing data, making it an asset is really one of those things with unstructured data in particular that people have struggled with. And as you think about data sovereignty, security of that data, do you get called into a lot of conversations around, okay, I'd like to maybe manage my data with remote workers to monetize it, but I'm concerned about how I'm going to maintain not just compliance, but keeping it within country boundaries, things like that. Is that a big concern that you run across often?
Yeah, we do. We see that quite often, or it's certainly more and more common nowadays. I think the cloud throws a lot of those problems together, and you, like I say, this really is a people as a people problem, not a technology problem. And a lot of people look for the look for the solution in technology without actually knowing the question, I suppose. And what what we see is, if people are putting the right processes in place and with people, then they will get the results. But right now, the IT department's driving that conversation, and you're right about certainly country lines and compliance, and local data accessibility, and cost. That's so the cloud is global, but it's still local access. So we see a lot of those challenges thrown up. Certainly from a compliance perspective, but like I say, it all goes back to data governance, and if you have a CIO managing those processes, then we probably wouldn't encounter half of the issues we do. So that's really that's what we see a lot.
As we look at the timing of releasing this episode of the podcast, we've decided to align it with the day we're launching the partnership with Hammerspace. What technology gaps or compliance gaps, data gaps, whichever you want to call it, do you feel Hammerspace is bringing into your portfolio? What caused you to be interested in that technology?
We know that there's complexities and issues across the data sphere of of managing your data, and what Hammerspace really gives us and will give our customers is the opportunity to have a single version of the truth. So we don't typically see that. We work right now via multiple copies of data being delivered, and that causes frictions and complexities and silos. With Hammerspace, we're essentially decoupling those silos and giving everyone live data and access to live data anywhere. So that's why we chose to work with Hammerspace, and we truly believe that it's the holy grail, what our customers have been looking for a long time, in that global namespace. And it certainly ticks a lot of boxes of companies who we work with in life sciences, in finance, legal, media and entertainment. All of these verticals have the same issues when working across multiple sites or even globally. And Hammerspace essentially gives us the access to view, manage, share these at any time.
As we look into 2023, I think a lot of people are now getting back from summer holiday, starting to think about, of course, closing up end of year for their businesses, but also budgeting and planning for 23. What do you think the big challenges will be that customers are wanting to solve next year?
I think we've had a tumultuous few years, for which there was no planning for.
Just some peace and continuity will be nice.
That would be great. I think for what we would like to see typically is customers come in with a capacity management plan, and certainly more governance of their data. Ultimately, I don't expect too much to change, but our job really is to try and educate and show that there's another way to do things. I think what we've seen is over the last few years, multiple challenges, supply chain probably being the top of that list. So I expect that to bottom out or flatten out towards the end, towards the middle of next year. I'd say we should be in a good position. The one thing that hasn't stopped though is that people, if you're dealing with critical infrastructure, you're not putting those plans aside for anyone, because ultimately technology is what drives and innovates your business to make better decisions, and you can't really put a price on that. So I think people will start planning. I think that people with global data centers or multiple silo, multiple cloud solutions will start looking for better ways to manage their data. So I believe we've got the right solution with Hammerspace, that's for sure.
So as we wrap up, I think it would be helpful for folks listening to this call to understand, how to get in touch with you. Do you focus just on UK-based companies? Maybe just how to take advantage of these expertise that we've been talking about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you. Good opportunity to plug Titan
Yeah, absolutely.
shamelessly. So I guess from a contact perspective, Steve at titandatasolutions.com.
Is that a real person who answers that? Is that you? Or is it a bot?
Sometimes, yeah, maybe, yeah. It's not a bot, thank God. That would be a good way to get in touch with myself. We've got a great team of account managers here, and you'll be looked after very well. We've also got solutions at titandatasolutions.com as well for any technical requests. You should have a look at our website, titandatasolutions.com. We're based in London, but we do have a global presence. We do a lot of integration. We've got warehouse facilities in Holland. We've just incorporated in the Middle East, in Dubai. And we've also got a warehouse here as well where we'll hold stock, integrate, configure to all of our customers' specification. About 30% of our business does go into mainland Europe, so we're strong in Germany, Italy, France, Spain. But the UK, that's our bread and butter, as we'll say, and we're working really well. We're working on some great projects with our partners, and like I say, we're 4 years into the journey as of next month, and we're just starting to hit our stride, I would say. We're out that startup phase, and we're really pushing on as a business and bringing some great people into the organisation as well. And finally, we're now in a position to bring some fantastic technologies to market, and we appreciate the venture with yourself, Molly, and Hammerspace. So thank you for the time.
Awesome. I was doing a podcast. One of our previous show guests was a gal named Roxanne Guggen, and she's a chief futurist, and so she's heavily involved in the investment markets and assessing future technologies. And one of the things I've found that's really holding true in today's dynamic is the newer, agile companies, often younger in the number of years that they've been around, are flourishing more than some of the more established companies, because the world is changing so fast and demands of technology are changing so fast. And I think you guys are an example of that, shining example, 4 years in and growing fast and already adjusting your business model for what organizations and companies need. So I have a lot of faith that you're going to continue with your success, and look forward to spending more time with you in the future. Thank you so much for joining this show.
Thank you, Molly. Very kind.
Thanks for listening to Data Unchained, powered by Hammerspace. To learn more, visit hammerspace.com. If you have a guest you would like to hear on the show, email me at molly@hammerspace.com.